In the Ashford family, there are two kinds of people, the saints and the sinners. My twin sister Grace was the saint. New York loves a good myth. In winter, the city polishes its stories until they shine. Charity balls in marble halls, crystal flutes clinking under chandeliers that cost more than apartments. Grace belonged there like a hymn belongs in a cathedral. She played piano with that effortless poise people mistake for virtue. Robert, our father, watched her the way boardrooms watch stock tickers. Serena, our stepmother, hovered like a curator at a museum, careful to keep fingerprints off her masterpiece. At the Met Gala knockoff, flashbulbs stitched her into every frame. Ivory silk, perfect posture, a smile rehearsed to suggest kindness without giving anything away. Reporters called her Grace personified. Subtle, I know. She'd sit at a Steinway, wrists floating, and the room would hold its breath like a congregation. Every note said, "See, she's the good one." Me? I was the cautionary tale in leather. Tattoos like underlined sentences I didn't owe anyone an explanation for, a black jacket that creaked when I moved, like the city and I had our own secret weather. Paparazzi loved the easy math. Upper East Side Angel, East Village Problem. One blurry shot outside a dive bar could feed a week of tabloids. It didn't matter that I was there to hear a kid play Coltrane on a horn worth less than his rent. The caption would write itself, Raven Ashford spirals again. At home, contempt was the family's second language. Robert spoke it in budgets and deadlines. Image is an asset. Raven. Serena preferred the softer knife. Sweetheart, when you rebel, you embarrass us. Grace never had to say a word. She just tilted her head, saintly, and the room completed the sentence for her. Winter sharpened everything. The avenues turned into runways for people who treated December like a sport, who wore philanthropy the way they wore fur. Invitations stacked on our foyer table like stock options, penthouse tastings, museum previews, a small recital in a room big enough to house envy comfortably. Grace glided through it all, a sanctioned miracle. I left footprints that didn't melt quickly enough. People assume I enjoyed being the black sheep. Truth. It's exhausting to be a rumor in your own house, but exhaustion makes a good solvent. It stripped the varnish off our family portrait until I could see the brush strokes. Who admired what? Who pretended why? And who needed me to be the sinner so they could keep shining? So yes, saints and sinners. The thing about myths is they crack clean when you tap the right seam. And when mine cracked, it wasn't a whisper. It was the sound a door makes when someone decides it's time for you to leave. Winter stories in New York always come with a price tag. Ours arrived engraved on vellum, sealed in gold, and smelled like champagne. An engagement that would make the society pages purr. Grace first, always. A private salon on the Upper East Side, chandeliers dripping like they had a pulse. The pianist warmed up with Debussy, quaint, considering the performance about to begin. And then he walked in. Julian Thorne. Old money cut on a modern line, tailored restraint, a watch that didn't scream because it had never needed to. His expression said due diligence more than romance. Cameras clicked. Grace glowed. Robert shook his hand like a man greeting a merger. Serena offered the smile of a collector who finally landed the piece that completes a wall. I stood by a window and watched the city hold its breath. If a saint needed a miracle, she had found a very expensive one. He didn't look at Grace the way men look at legends. He looked at her the way executives read contracts, measuring risk, scouting fine print. People mistake silence for warmth all the time. Silence can be a blade. His was polished. Somewhere between the canapes and the congratulations, the press blasted a headline. Thorne heir sets date with Ashford Angel. Cute and profitable. After the applause, our family staged a smaller scene. Just blood relatives and a single witness. My patience. Robert cleared his throat like he was opening a board meeting. Serena perched, lacquered and lethal. Raven, he said, there's an opportunity we expect you to treat with maturity. Translation. Here comes the invoice. Mitch Harrison, 40s, investor. The kind of man who calls waiters buddy and mistakes fear for respect. A pinky ring that has seen more deals than daylight. In my head, I filed him where he belonged, the pig. You'll marry him, Robert said, and stop complicating this family's future. Serena sweetened the poison. He adores you, darling. Security is love in the adult world. I laughed, and it wasn't pretty. You're selling me to a man who thinks boundaries are optional, I said. Robert's jaw set like a vault. You will do this, or you will be cut off. Entirely. Entirely is a good word. It sounds like a cliff. Cut me off from what? I asked. Your approval? Your accountant? He stared like he was deciding whether to fire me from a job I never applied for. Serena pressed a manicured finger to her pearls. You exhaust us, Raven. This is a chance to be respectable. Respectable is the suit people put on when their conscience doesn't fit anymore. Grace waited until the room tilted her way, then delivered mercy like a verdict. Be realistic, she said, voice honeyed and hollow. With your reputation, you should be grateful anyone wants you. Mitch is rich. Take the money. Her smile was charity, her eyes were accounting. People clapped for the future Mrs. Thorne earlier that night. I wondered how they'd applaud for a sale. No, I said. Not loud, not dramatic. Just a clean blade across a rotten rope. Robert leaned in. You will regret this. Probably, I said, but not as much as you'll regret choosing a buyer over a daughter. In the window behind them, Fifth Avenue glittered like a lie told beautifully. The city doesn't care who you marry. It cares who owns you. We adjourned without minutes, just damage. The invitations went back into their silk envelopes. Somewhere, a pianist finished a nocturne no one remembered to applaud. By morning, I'd learned just how high the bid on me really was, and how filthy the hands holding the receipt. They called it a dinner. It felt like a transaction with steak knives. Madison Avenue, leather booths, portraits of dead money on the walls. Robert reserved the table. Serena confirmed the menu. And I showed up because sometimes you walk into the trap to study where the teeth are. Mitch Harrison arrived smelling like cologne that brags. 40s, heavy watch, heavier entitlement. He slid in across from me and waved for the most expensive whiskey like it was a tick. Heard you're a handful, he said. Good. I like a challenge. In my head, the file opened to the tab I'd already labeled, the pig. He glanced at my tattoos the way a landlord looks at a late payment. We'll fix the image stuff, he said. A few charity galas, cleaner friends, new wardrobe. I'll handle the accounts. You'll handle? I put my glass down. Finish that sentence and I'll handle the assault charge. He laughed, loud enough to recruit the next table. Relax, sweetheart. I'm talking grown-up stability. Stability, I said, isn't a leash with a receipt. The waiter set down his rye. Mitch winked at the waiter like he'd earned me with a tip. That was the seam. I tapped it. The whiskey left my hand and met his face in a small, righteous storm. He jolted back, sputtering, pinky ring flashing like a cheap alarm. A hush rolled through the room, the kind that precedes a better story. He stood up, blotting his cheeks, dignity slipping on the ice. You stupid girl, he barked. Your stepmother already took my money, $3 million, to keep you in line. You belong to me. The room inhaled. I didn't. Belong is a word for art and property. I am neither. Tell your accountant I'm non-fungible, I said, and walked out before security found a reason to escort me. The night air hit sharp, like honesty. I called a car, then changed my mind and let the cold do the driving. If Serena had taken his money, she'd taken more than that. She'd tried to buy my silence. I headed for the townhouse. If they wanted an audience, I'd give them one. Timing is a cruel comedian. The Ashford townhouse glowed like a promise, and inside sat the Thornes, Julian, carved from quiet, and his mother, immaculate steel in pearls. Perfect witnesses. You sold me, I said, stepping into the light, to a man who thinks contracts apply to people. Robert stiffened. Serena's smile froze like varnish in winter. Grace turned, hands poised like she was about to play a saint's encore. Raven is unstable, Serena announced gently to the room, as if discussing weather. She's been drinking. She misunderstood a friendly arrangement. Friendly? I said. He claimed you took $3 million to deliver me. Grace slid beside our father. She's jealous, she whispered, stage volume. Every time someone loves me, she spirals. Julian's eyes moved once, me, then Grace, then the space between them where truth is usually found dead. His mother stood, smoothing her coat with a patience I recognized from museums. The moment before you decide a piece isn't worth acquiring. We should go, she said to Julian, voice soft and decisive. Ms. Ashford. She nodded to Serena. My congratulations remain unchanged by logistics. The door clicked behind them like a gavel. I wanted to laugh. I didn't. Robert advanced with executive efficiency. You're a disgrace. Get out. Serena pulled the door wide like charity. Grace tossed a bag that wasn't packed so much as curated. A few clothes, a wallet light on cash, heavy on humiliation. Have fun being homeless, bitch, she sang. Winter took me in without paperwork. The city doesn't care who throws you out. But it always offers a way back in, if you're willing to pay in truth. She was right. She had taken everything. It started 10 years ago, in a house that mistook silence for dignity and cruelty for discipline. My real mother, my first mother, was the heiress, a world-class pianist whose hands could turn a crowded room into prayer. She built a private holding and named it Aria Holdings, because an aria is a solo meant to be heard. Aria wasn't just numbers on paper. It sheltered three things: the Ashford estate that she brought into the marriage, the music and art she made and owned, and a small fund for young artists who needed a first door to open. That was her. Wealth with a purpose, a palace, a catalog, and a key. Serena entered our lives like a gentle storm, hair perfect, voice polite, a guest who never left. Grace learned piano beside me. She learned something else faster: how praise can be stolen if you move first. My mother taught us scales. Serena taught the room who deserved applause. Spoiler: it wasn't me. The night of the fall was ordinary until it wasn't. A hallway, a whisper, a hand on my shoulder. Jealousy is clumsy. It pushes. I hit the steps wrong. My right wrist took the worst of the mess, nerves lit like wire, the kind of pain that teaches you your own anatomy one flash at a time. After that, I could still play. Yes. But the fire arrived with any quick rotation. Grip strength ghosted. Virtuoso runs lasted under 5 minutes. Tell a prodigy she now has a timer, and watch what grief does to talent. I said Grace pushed me. The adults said I slipped. I said it hurt to turn doorknobs. They said it hurt to be ungrateful. In the Ashford house, truth was a guest. Reputation paid the mortgage. Months later, my mother died in a car accident. Paperwork moved faster than grief. While I learned how to sleep without Chopin, someone learned how to move assets. Aria was folded into Ashford Inc., the family's sinking flagship, with signatures that looked legal and timing that looked hungry. Robert said it was strategy. Serena called it stability. I called it theft in a good suit. People think I became the wild child because I loved chaos. I loved oxygen. Leather and late nights were cheaper than therapy, and they photographed better than grief. If you can't play the right hand anymore, you learn to play the room. And the room likes a sinner. Sinners take the blame cleanly. 3 years ago, I went to Seoul to audition for a competition I had no business entering, except I needed to prove to myself I could still be heard. Grace sent an apology text, olive branch emojis, a private party invite. The yacht wore money like cologne. Laughter made bridges between strangers. A drink appeared, then another. My head swam wrong. The music tilted off key. I wasn't drunk. I was dosed. Night water is a different species. It doesn't reflect. It swallows. A shove, a rail, a starless mouth beneath me, then metal, skull, blackout. The kind of silence that feels personal. A splash beside me. Another set of hands, precise and calm, finding my coat, my chin, the fact of me. He didn't say my name because he didn't know it yet. But I remember the shape of his quiet. A lifeboat. A towel. A voice that didn't panic. Later, a room that smelled like antiseptic and cedar. 7 days measured in sips of water and the slow return of pronouns. When I could keep my eyes open, he finally told me his name. Julian Thorne. He took care of me like it was a task, not a performance. Thermometer, broth, a doctor who asked more questions than he answered. I remembered a boat. I remembered falling. Faces were fog with teeth. Then the call came, the kind that moves billion-dollar calendars. He left. I slept. When I flew home, Grace and Serena had already written the narrative. Raven got drunk and fell. So tragic. So predictable. Memory is a lock. Lies are keys cut in the dark. Here's the truth I keep in my pocket like a blade. My mother built a company to protect beauty, and they turned it into collateral. I want Aria back. Every deed, every copyright, every young artist's first grant. I want the house, not because it's marble and history, but because it's mine. And the man who pulled me out of black water 3 winters ago, he's engaged to my sister now. Which makes this a love story only if you confuse rescue with mercy, and mercy with justice. I went to a bar that never pretends to be anything else. Neon tired at the edges, brass rail nicked by 1,000 bad decisions. The band was tuning a sax that sounded like winter itself. I wanted noise that didn't lie. That's when 2 men walked in wearing the uniform of borrowed courage, cheap leather, cheaper eyes. They scanned the room like they'd been given a shopping list with my name at the top. I didn't look up. I finished my club soda. If you want to survive a hunt, don't act like prey. Raven Ashford? I smiled at the bartender instead. Mr. Harrison would like a private word, the taller one said, as if the words private and word had ever done anything but bruise. The pig was collecting then. Tell him I'm off the market, I said, rising. I slipped through the side door into the alley, brick flaking, trash steam, a city artery that doesn't make it to postcards. Footsteps behind me, the heavy kind. I pivoted left. Bad idea. Pain snapped up my right wrist, white and electric, the old injury reminding me that bones remember long after the room forgets. The short one lunged first. He led with his shoulder. I led with the lesson. Heel to instep, palm to nose, left hand only. Eyes follow pain. The tall one reached. I turned, elbowed soft ribs, then drove low at the groin. Not elegant, just effective. They weren't trained. They were arrogant. Which meant I had exactly 5 seconds to buy a little sky. I ran. Alleys in the East Village have a sense of humor. This one did dead ends. Chain link fence. Locked. Behind me, breath, curses, the rattle of men who think you're a receipt they're owed. My right hand was a siren. Don't punch, don't twist, don't be stupid. Headlights swung across the brick like a film reel. A black Maybach slid nose first into the mouth of the alley, silent in the way expensive things are silent. The goons paused. Money has a scent. Even they knew it. The rear door clicked open with the restraint of good manners. A silhouette inside, just a man-shaped absence of light. His voice was low, cold, familiar in a way that made my skin remember before my mind did. Get in. I did the math. 2 men, 1 fence, 1 bad wrist, 1 sanctuary on wheels. I got in. The door sealed. The world muted. The car backed out with dismissive elegance. In the rear glass, the goons got smaller, anger without leverage. The interior smelled like cedar and self-control. He didn't look at me immediately, which meant he didn't need to. He drove like he'd purchased the right to time. "What is this?" I said. "Saving your fiancé's screw-up, sister?" "Thanks, brother-in-law." "Don't call me that," he said. "That engagement is a business arrangement." The words found a home in my chest and refused to pay rent. I watched the city recede and return in the windows. Mannequins, bodegas, a woman walking a dog in a coat that cost more than my rent. He finally glanced at my wrist where the pain had set up a small, angry kingdom. "Right hand?" he asked. "Souvenir," I said. From a staircase I didn't fall down. Silence again, the blade kind. Then he said, "You don't remember me, do you?" The question had edges. "Seoul. 3 years ago. You fell off a boat." The car kept gliding, but my body stopped. Water. Metal. Hands. A voice that didn't panic. I tasted salt that wasn't on my tongue. I turned toward him. "You..." He kept his eyes on the road. "You had a fever. You were dehydrated. You slept most of the week." "Why help me?" I asked. "Because you were drowning," he said. Mercy stated like a line item. The Maybach slid into an underground garage, the kind that promises a floor for every secret. An elevator accepted a keycard that could probably open countries. The door to a high-floor condo unlocked with a sound I felt in my teeth. Precision. Warm light. Stone that didn't show fingerprints. A couch that asked questions in Italian. He set a small first aid kit on the table like a peace treaty. "Ice," he said, nodding at my wrist. "What's the catch?" I asked. "You stay here tonight," he said. "You don't go back to that bar, and you don't meet Harrison again without a witness." Conditions. Not kindness, or both. I couldn't tell. "Saving me for Grace's sake?" I asked. "I don't do favors," he said. "Then why?" He didn't answer. He didn't have to. People think silence means nothing. Sometimes it means a ledger you will never be allowed to see. At the door, he paused. "Get some sleep," he said. "We'll talk in the morning." "About what?" I asked. "About what you actually want," he said. Then he left me with the skyline and a wrist wrapped in ice, a city whose lights blinked like lies rehearsing honesty. I stood in the hush and listened for the ocean in my memory. It was there. Far, deliberate, unforgiving. The man engaged to my saintly sister had pulled me out of black water once. Now he'd pulled me out of something worse. Debt is a funny word. It can mean money, or it can mean motive. By morning, I'd have a plan. I just didn't know yet that he would be the perfect weapon. He was engaged to my nemesis, which made him the one man I shouldn't touch, and the perfect weapon to take my life back. The mission was simple, which is not the same as easy. Aria Holdings, 100%, out of Ashford Inc. The house my mother brought into the marriage, the music she owned, the fun that opened first doors for kids who had none. I wasn't chasing romance. I was reclaiming a will. Julian Thorne wasn't a fairy tale. He was a system. Old money disguised as restraint, eyes that audited a room. He didn't speak in flowers. He spoke in terms. If Grace was a brand, he was the compliance department. If I could align my truth with his due diligence, we'd both get what we wanted. My leverage came in 3 languages: money, optics, and law. Money, Mitch the pig. Harrison's $3 million claim, proof that Serena sold me like an asset. Optics, the saint versus sinner narrative that New York inhaled on command. Bend it and you bend the city. Law, filings that smelled like forgery, a merger that moved too fast, signatures that looked too perfect for grief. The plan wasn't to seduce a man. The plan was to make myself indispensable to a machine. Give him what he can't purchase, the inside map of Ashford rot. If he was already investigating us, and his mother's eyes said he was, I'd become the clean witness with dirty access. He helps me carve Aria out. I help him cut liabilities out of his engagement. Tactics needed stages. Stage 1, public proximity, where rumor does free marketing. Stage 2, private proposition, terms, not kisses. And rules for me: no self-sabotage, no pity, no letting my right hand write checks my nerves can't cash. I picked the battlefield he owned, his nightclub. Somewhere with cameras, velvet ropes, and the kind of lighting that makes sin look curated. Red dress. Not for him, for the myth. I'd bypass security and stand in his quiet until it had to answer me. Not a plea, a proposal. My offer would be simple. You help me take back Aria. House, copyrights, fund. Cleanly and completely. I work for you until it's done. I give you everything I know about Serena, Robert, and their paper trail. In return, you give me a firewall between me and the pig, and a way out. He'd have terms. Men like him always do. I planned to say yes to most of them. Contingencies were packed: burner phone, cash, copies of evidence off-site, a lawyer on call, and a promise to my wrist. Left hand only if it turned ugly. Tonight, the city would watch a sinner walk into a temple. And if the saint heard about it? Good. Miracles sell out faster when someone else is praying for them. New York worships many gods, but on Friday nights, it kneels to velvet rope. His nightclub sat in Tribeca like a rumor with perfect lighting, sub-bass humming through stone, a line of beautiful people practicing patience for sport. I wore red. Not the kind of red that begs, the kind that tells the room it can look, but it can't afford to touch. The dress knew where to be strict and where to be generous. I let the city finish its sentence about me before I offered the punctuation. Security gave me the standard inventory: face, posture, purpose. I gave them the truth, none of the above, and walked past with the confidence of someone who wrote the fire code. Head bartender clocked me. I nodded like we'd exchanged favors. We hadn't. Yet. He was exactly where power sits when it wants to be seen and not touched. A shadowed booth with a halo of distance, a single glass sweating integrity. Julian Thorne watched the room the way a pilot watches weather, measuring turbulence other people call fun. I let the crowd carry me to the edge of his quiet. Buy your future sister-in-law a drink? I said, resting a hand on the table like a dare. His eyes moved first, not his head. Audit before action. You're playing a dangerous game, he said. I like dangerous games, I whispered. Don't you? Games have rules, he said. Good, I said. I'm tired of improvising for people who confuse greed with taste. A beat. He gestured to the seat. The room's volume went up. Ours went down. Why are you here, Raven? Because stories sell better with pictures, I said, glancing at the phones aimed our way. And because you don't buy stories. You verify them. I crossed my legs. The dress did the rest. 1,000 angles caught something they could monetize. Somewhere, a blog scheduled tomorrow's headline without asking permission. If Grace calls, I said, tell her I'm borrowing the family brand for research. If you're here to humiliate her, he said, You're wasting time. Humiliation is cheap, I said. I'm expensive. I'm here for recovery. Assets, reputation, truth. He studied my right wrist where a thin bracelet tried and failed to disguise history. How bad? He asked. Bad enough to choose my battles, I said. Good enough to win the ones that matter. A server arrived with 2 glasses that hadn't been ordered. Compliments of the house, she smiled, which meant compliments of him. I touched the rim to my lip and set it down untouched. You don't drink? He asked. Not when men who think they own me are buying, I said. He didn't flinch. The music shifted into something slow enough to notice intention. I leaned in until his silence had to commit. You saved me once, I said. Water. Night. Soul. His throat moved, not his posture. You don't owe me anything, he said. Good, I said. Then what happens next can be business. I let my hand trace the edge of the table, left hand only, the one that never lies. Here's my pitch, I said softly. Not here, not loud, but I have something you want. The map of Ashford Rot. And you have something I need. Leverage and a firewall. A camera flash found us. He turned his head just enough to give the city a profile it would argue about. Stand up, he said. Why? I asked. Because negotiations don't belong in a crowd. We walked through the club like choreography, security parting, whispers braiding our names. I felt the myth recalculating around us. Saint, sinner, and the man who could bankrupt both categories. A door marked private opened because doors do that for certain men. In the hallway, the sound thinned to a heartbeat. He looked at me like a problem statement he could finally enjoy solving. If this is a trap, he said, you'll regret it. If it's a rescue, I said, so will you. His hand hovered over the handle. Last chance, he said. Walk away, keep the rumor, lose the risk. Open the door, I said. Dangerous game, he murmured. My favorite kind, I said. The office was a different country. Glass, wood, a view that made the river look obedient. He closed the door with a click that sounded like a contract starting a stopwatch. He stayed standing. Power does that. Talk, he said. Terms, I answered. The door clicked shut behind us. His office was all glass and restraint. New York spread out like a portfolio you could edit. He stayed standing. So did I. Power recognizes its own posture. You're trying to seduce me to get revenge on your sister, he said. No, I said. I'm trying to end a theft and I'm willing to use every tool I have. If that bothers you, congratulations on being human. He studied me like a report that refused to lie. Grace isn't what she seems, he said finally. I've been investigating the Ashfords for months. Good, I said. Then you already know where the rot starts. I stepped closer. Enough for honesty, not for drama. You helped me carve Aria Holdings clean out of Ashford Inc., the house, the copyrights, the fund. You keep me out of Harrison's reach. In return, I work for you until it's done. I give you the map, Serena's signatures, Robert's timing, the $3 million leverage the pig thinks he owns. He let the silence breathe, then laid out the blade. Terms, he said. No smoking, no dive bars. You work only for me until this is over. I smiled without warmth. You trying to save me or quarantine me? Both, he said. And one more, you tell me the truth, even when it costs you. Then you go first, I said. Why help me, really? Because justice is cleaner when it's personal, he said, and because I don't like being lied to. I weighed the rules like jewelry, some pretty, some heavy. Fine, I said. No smoking, no dive bars. I work for you until Aria is mine again. But get the wording right. I don't belong to anyone. His mouth tilted. Professionally, then. Professionally, I echoed, knowing we were both lying to ourselves just enough to function. The distance between us measured exactly 1 heartbeat. He reached for my left hand, the good one, and lifted it like he was testing weight, not ownership. When he kissed me, it wasn't a performance. It was an audit. Of rumors, of posture, of who I'd been forced to be. I let the city disappear. Later, the quiet made more sense than the furniture. He exhaled a truth into the dark. They were wrong about you. He didn't say the word first. He didn't have to. The rumors died without a funeral. Dawn made the river look obedient. He set a folder on the table, names, dates, wire transfers. Proof. You'll have a secure phone by noon, he said. Encryption, off-site backups, counsel on retainer. We move fast or we don't move. I nodded. And the firewall from Harrison? Already built, he said. He won't touch you without touching me. Dangerous game, I murmured. My favorite kind, he answered. My line, stolen neatly. The alliance was official, even if the contract was made of breath. That night, Manhattan put on its nicest manners. Engagement party at a penthouse where the chandeliers knew gossip by its perfume. Serena sparkled like weaponized champagne. Robert shook hands like he could buy absolution in bulk. Grace stood center stage, white dress, perfect posture, an encore waiting for applause. Somewhere, a reporter practiced the phrase society's favorite couple. The doors opened. Gasps have a shape. This one was expensive. Julian Thorne walked in first, controlled, deliberate. On his arm, me. Red dress, head high, the sinner who'd stopped auditioning for forgiveness. Cameras blinked like panic. Grace's smile cracked 1 millimeter, the first honest line she'd shown all night. Good evening, Julian said to the room. He didn't explain me. He didn't need to. The city would do the math, loudly. And tomorrow, when the headlines tried to pick a saint again, I'd be busy taking back my mother's company. Let them worship. I was there for the reckoning.